My nephew didn't ask if I needed help. He had me declared incompetent and locked away. I was sitting in my study, cataloging my late wife Dorothy's collection of first edition books, when the doorbell rang. It was 3 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. I wasn't expecting anyone. I walked to the door, my knee clicking with each step, a reminder that 73 years of living leaves its marks. I opened the door to find Daniel, my sister's boy, standing on my porch with a woman in a white coat and 2 police officers behind him. Daniel looked nervous. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Uncle Bobby," he said, his voice cracking. "We need to talk. This is Dr. Chen. She's here to help." I looked at the doctor. She was young, maybe 40, holding a clipboard like a shield. The police officers looked uncomfortable, shifting their weight from foot to foot. "Help with what?" I asked. "Doctor." Chen stepped forward. "Mr. Sullivan, I'm a psychiatrist. Your nephew has expressed concerns about your mental state. We're here to conduct a wellness check." I didn't panic. I didn't yell. I spent 40 years managing a bank, dealing with audits and regulators and angry customers who thought they could intimidate me. I learned a long time ago that the man who stays calm holds all the power. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. "Let's get this over with." They followed me into my living room. The Victorian house was immaculate. Dorothy had kept it that way for 50 years, and I had maintained her standards in the 2 years since she passed. Every book was shelved. Every surface was dusted. The bills were paid and filed. Dr. Chen sat across from me. She asked questions. What day was it? Who was the president? Could I count backward from 100 by sevens? I answered every question correctly. I was polite. I was coherent. I was, by any measure, completely sound of mind. But Daniel had brought papers. A petition for emergency guardianship. A statement from a doctor I had never met, claiming I had been exhibiting signs of advanced dementia. Medical records that had been altered. Prescriptions for medications I had never taken. The fix was in. 48 hours later, a judge I had never met reviewed the paperwork and signed the order. I was declared a danger to myself. Daniel was appointed my temporary guardian, and I was escorted by ambulance to Maplewood Senior Care, a facility 20 miles outside Portland. I didn't fight. I didn't argue. I simply packed a small bag, took one last look at my house, and smiled. Because Daniel didn't know that I had spent 40 years preparing for betrayal. In banking, you learn to trust numbers, not people. You learn to document everything. You learn that the man with the records wins. And I had kept records. Before I continue, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever had to teach someone a lesson about underestimating the elderly. The nursing home smelled like industrial disinfectant and overcooked vegetables. My room was small. A single bed, a dresser, a television bolted to the wall. They had taken my belt and my shoelaces as if I were suicidal. I was assigned a roommate, a man named Earl who spent most of his time staring at game shows and muttering about his ungrateful children. I sat on the edge of the bed and assessed the situation. The staff was overworked and underpaid. Security was minimal. The doors locked from the outside, but the locks were old. I had been imprisoned, but not in a fortress. I asked for a phone call. They gave me a monitored line in the common room. I called my lawyer, Marcus Webb. He had handled Dorothy's estate. He was sharp, ruthless, and owed me a favor after I helped his daughter get a mortgage when no other bank would touch her. "Bobby?" Marcus answered, his voice confused. "Where are you calling from?" "Maplewood," I said. Daniel had me committed. There was a long pause. "On what grounds?" "Dementia. Forged medical records." "He's going for the house." Marcus swore softly. "I can file an appeal, but it will take weeks. The judge who signed the order is notorious for siding with family guardians. He thinks he's protecting vulnerable seniors." "I don't need an appeal," I said. "I need surveillance." "What are you talking about?" "Before they took me, I activated something. Every room in my house is wired. Cameras, audio, cloud storage. Daniel doesn't know. I need you to hire someone to monitor the feeds and document everything. Every item they sell. Every document they forge. Every crime they commit. I want a full record." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, a dark chuckle that told me he understood exactly what I was doing. "You set a trap." "I set a mousetrap," I corrected. "And Daniel just walked into it. Get me a private investigator. Someone discreet. Someone who knows elder law. And tell them to watch closely, because my nephew is about to incriminate himself." I hung up. A nurse was standing nearby, listening. She was an older black woman, maybe 60, with kind eyes and a name tag that read Gloria. "You're not crazy, are you?" she asked quietly. "No, ma'am," I said. "Good. she said. Because we get a lot of people in here who shouldn't be. Family members stealing their money, their houses. It makes me sick. You need anything, you let me know. I thanked her. I went back to my room. I sat on the bed and waited. In banking, patience is a virtue. The audits always catch the fraud. It just takes time. 3 days after I was committed, Marcus sent word through Gloria. He had hired a former FBI agent named Rachel Park. She was monitoring the feeds. She was compiling a report, and Daniel was already making mistakes. The first mistake was the furniture. I watched the recordings on a tablet Gloria smuggled to me. Rachel had set me up with secure access to the cloud storage. The video quality was excellent. I had spared no expense on the system. On the third day, Daniel and his wife Jessica walked through my front door like they owned the place. Jessica was a petite woman with expensive taste and a voice that could strip paint. She was wearing designer jeans and carrying a Louis Vuitton bag that cost more than a month's rent. Finally, she said, dropping the bag on Dorothy's antique credenza. I've been waiting for this for years. Daniel looked uncomfortable. Jess, maybe we should wait a few weeks. Make it look less suspicious. Suspicious? Jessica laughed. Bobby's in a home, Daniel. He's not coming back. The doctor said he's practically a vegetable. We need to move fast before the estate gets complicated. They started in the living room. Dorothy's furniture was all from the 1920s. Original Stickley. Worth a fortune to the right buyer. Jessica walked around, running her hand over the wood, calculating. This stuff is so ugly, she said. But that dealer in Boston said he'd pay top dollar for Craftsman furniture. Call him. Daniel pulled out his phone. Jess, this is my uncle's stuff. Maybe we should. Maybe we should what? Jessica snapped. Pay for our condo? Pay off your failed business? Your uncle is rich, Daniel. He has no kids. No other family. This is your inheritance. Stop being a coward and take it. The dealer arrived the next day. I watched him load the Morris chair, the sideboard, the library table. Pieces Dorothy and I had collected over decades. He paid them $8,000 in cash. The furniture was worth at least $40,000. But Daniel and Jessica didn't care. They needed quick money, not fair value. Rachel's report noted the sale. Fraudulent disposal of assets belonging to a protected person. First charge. The second mistake was the bank accounts. As my court-appointed guardian, Daniel had legal access to my finances. But there were rules. Guardians are supposed to use the money for the ward's care. Not for personal expenses. I watched on the tablet as Daniel sat at my kitchen table with my bank statements spread out in front of him. He was on his laptop, logged into my accounts using the credentials the bank had given him. How much is in here? Jessica asked, looking over his shoulder. Savings account has $400,000, Daniel said. Checking has about $50,000. Investment account is around $900,000. Jessica's eyes went wide. $1 million. Daniel, we could pay off everything. The car loans, the credit cards, the business debts. We can't just drain his accounts, Jess. There are audits. The court reviews guardian spending. So make it look legit, Jessica said. Pay for the nursing home for a year up front. That's what, $60,000? Then write checks for his medical expenses and home maintenance. Who's going to question it? Daniel hesitated. But greed won. It always does. Over the next week, I watched him drain $150,000 from my accounts. He wrote checks to fake contractors. He paid Jessica's credit cards and called it necessary expenses for the guardian. He bought a new car and registered it under an LLC, claiming it was for transporting me to medical appointments. Rachel documented it all. Embezzlement, fraud, misappropriation of funds. The charges were piling up. But the third mistake, the one that would send him to prison, was the signature. I watched the tablet late at night while Earl snored in the bed next to mine. Daniel was in my study. He had found the lockbox where I kept important documents. The deed to the house. The title to my 1967 Corvette. Dorothy's jewelry appraisal. He was on the phone with a title company. I need to refinance my uncle's property, Daniel was saying. He's in a care facility. I'm his guardian. Yes, I have the power of attorney. Can I fax you the signed documents? He hung up. Then he pulled out the deed. He laid it on my desk. He practiced my signature on a notepad. Once, twice, 3 times. Then he forged my name on a quitclaim deed, transferring the house from my name to an LLC he controlled. I sat up in bed. This was it. Forgery of a legal document. Elder financial abuse. These were felonies. I texted Rachel. Did you get that? She responded immediately. Every second. High definition. We have him? I smiled. The trap had sprung. Now I just needed to wait for the right moment to walk out of the cage. 2 weeks after I was committed, Daniel refinanced my house. He pulled out $600,000 in equity. He paid off his debts. He bought Jessica a new Range Rover. He took a vacation to the Bahamas and posted photos on social media, drinking cocktails on a beach while I ate Jell-O in a nursing home. But he made one critical error. He forgot that nursing homes don't keep people prisoner. They keep people safe. And I was never in danger. On a Thursday morning, Marcus arrived at Maplewood with a briefcase and a court order. He walked past the front desk, down the hall, and straight into my room. "Pack your things," he said. "Already done," I replied. I had been ready for days. Gloria appeared in the doorway. "You leaving us, Mr. Sullivan?" "I am," I said. "But thank you, Gloria. You're a good person in a broken system." She hugged me. "You go get him," she whispered. Marcus and I walked out the front door. No alarms. No drama. Because I was a voluntary patient. The commitment order had expired after 2 weeks, and the court hadn't renewed it because Marcus had filed a motion challenging the original diagnosis. We got into his car. He handed me a folder. "Rachel's full report," he said. "Video evidence. Financial records. Witness statements. I've already shared it with the district attorney. They're very interested." "Where to now?" I asked. "Your house," Marcus said. "With a police escort." We drove back to Portland. 2 police cruisers met us at the end of my street. The officers were different from the ones who had come with Daniel. These officers knew me. I had approved their mortgages. We walked up to my front door. I still had my key. I unlocked it and stepped inside. The house was trashed. The furniture was gone. The walls had holes where Daniel had removed Dorothy's framed photographs to sell. The carpets were stained. The kitchen was full of dirty dishes and empty takeout containers. But Daniel and Jessica were there. They were in the living room, arguing about paint colors. They wanted to stage the house for sale. They didn't hear us come in. I stood in the doorway and cleared my throat. Jessica screamed. She literally screamed and jumped backward, knocking over a can of paint. Daniel turned pale. He looked at me like I was a ghost. "Uncle Bobby," he stammered. What are you doing here?" "I live here," I said calmly. "The question is, what are you doing here?" I'm your guardian," Daniel said, trying to regain composure. "I have legal authority to manage your property." "You had legal authority," Marcus said, stepping forward. "The guardianship was temporary and has been dissolved. Mr. Sullivan has been medically re-evaluated by an independent physician. He is of sound mind. You no longer have any claim to his assets or property." Jessica grabbed Daniel's arm. "Tell them to leave. Call your lawyer." "I don't think he wants to do that," one of the police officers said. "Daniel Sullivan, you're under arrest for elder financial abuse, forgery, embezzlement, and fraud." The officer pulled out handcuffs. Daniel backed away. "This is insane. He's my uncle. I was helping him." "You stole $400,000, I said quietly. "You forged my signature on a deed. You sold my wife's furniture for a fraction of its value. And you posted photos on Facebook of yourself on vacation in the Bahamas while I ate pudding in a nursing home. That's not helping, Daniel. That's theft." They cuffed him. He was crying now, begging. "Uncle Bobby, please? I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I'll pay it back. Don't do this. I'm family." I looked at him. This boy I had helped raise after his father left. This boy I had lent money to when his business failed. This boy who had looked me in the eye and had me declared insane so he could steal my home. "You're not family," I said. "You're a stranger who shares my blood. There's a difference." They took him away. Jessica tried to follow, but the second officer stopped her. "Mrs. Sullivan, we have questions for you too." She started crying. Loud, dramatic sobs. "I didn't know. Daniel told me. Bobby agreed to this. I'm innocent." The officer was unmoved. "You spent the money. You benefited from the fraud. You're not innocent." Marcus and I stood in the ruins of my living room. The house was a mess. It would take months to restore it. But it was mine again. "What now?" Marcus asked. "Now," I said. "I want every penny back. With interest. And I want to make sure Daniel never does this to anyone else." The trial took 6 months. Rachel's evidence was airtight. The videos showed everything. The bank records proved the embezzlement. The forged signatures were obvious under expert analysis. Daniel pleaded guilty. He got 3 years in prison. Jessica got probation and was ordered to repay her share of the stolen money. The house was returned to my name. The accounts were unfrozen. But the money was gone. Daniel had spent it. His bankruptcy filing showed assets of $12,000 and debts of $400,000. I would never see most of it again. I didn't care. The money was never the point. The point was the lesson. I sold the house 6 months after the trial. It was too big for one person, and it held too many ghosts. I bought a smaller place on the coast. Something modern, easy to maintain. I donated a large portion of the proceeds to the Maine Elder Justice Initiative, a nonprofit that helps seniors fight financial abuse, and I kept the Corvette. Every Sunday, I drive it along the shore road with the top down, the wind in my thinning hair, the sun on my face. People say you should forgive family. That blood is thicker than water. But I learned that family is defined by loyalty, not genetics. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them face the consequences of their choices. Daniel sent me a letter from prison. He apologized. He said he had been desperate, that Jessica had pressured him, that he never meant to hurt me. He asked if we could rebuild our relationship when he got out. I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. I am 73 years old. I have survived a world war, a recession, the death of my wife, and the betrayal of my family. I have learned that dignity is not negotiable, that peace is not found by sacrificing yourself for people who don't value you, and that sometimes, the only way to save your life is to cut away the rot, even when it shares your name. If you have ever had to make the hard choice to protect yourself from someone you loved, leave your story in the comments below. And remember, you are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm.